And now on to our dinosaur of the day, Dakotadon, which was a request from Pachycelskisaurus via our Patreon Discord. So thank you. Moving a bit away from theropods and carnivorous dinosaurs, Dakotadon was an iguanodont that lived in the early Cretaceous in what is now South Dakota in the US. It was found in the Lakota Formation, and it looked similar to Iguanodon. It could walk on all fours, it had a bulky body, a long tail, and an elongated head. And for a long time, it was known as an iguanodon. It was estimated to be about 20 feet or 6 meters long and weigh 1 metric ton. It was first described in 1989 by David Weishampel and Philip Bjork, but they described it as Iguanodon lakotaensis. And the species name refers to, quote, the land of the Lakota and the horizon from which the type specimen was collected, end quote.
There's a lot of dinosaurs from Lakota lands, so
yes,
it makes sense that you would get at least one species named after you.
Mm-hmm. And they described a partial skull and parts of the skeleton. A man named Louis Rossow had found the fossils when hunting rattlesnakes on a hogback, and a hogback's a long, narrow ridge or series of hills, and this was near Sturgis, and he excavated them with the help of his family. Dale Rossow, who's Lewis's son, told John Willard from the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology about them, and Lewis had been storing the fossils in his garage. But now the fossils are donated. They're at the Museum of Geology. There's debate about where Dakotadon, or formerly known as Iguanodon, fit in. Some paleontologists considered it a new species of Iguanodon. Some considered it to be the same as Iguanodon bernissartensis, which was found in Europe. That would mean that this species had a really wide geographic range.
Yeah, I would say so.
North America and Europe.
From an island in Europe all the way over to North America. And this is in the Cretaceous when they were really separated.
Yes, so that's... I mean, think about that with the Spinosaurus debate.
Yeah, maybe not.
And some considered it to be a new genus. I thought it was interesting because the paper that first described Dakotadon, when it was described as Iguanodon lakotaensis, said that it was, quote, the first species from the United States that can be clearly referred to the European genus Iguanodon. And they also said it was the, quote, first indisputable record of Iguanodon from North America.
It's a genus that's less problematic than as a species.
Yes. I think it's just hard for dinosaurs to be indisputable.
Yeah, that's true. Bold claims.
Mm-hmm. So they described the nearly complete skull, part of the lower jaws, and 2 vertebrae, one from the neck and one from the tail. And the skull has been described as oblong, long and oval. It was considered to be Iguanodon because of the proportions of its face, the way its beak looked, and the patterns of the teeth, as well as other patterns on the bones. However, this species, this specimen, was larger than Iguanodon atherfieldensis, another species of Iguanodon, and it also had fewer teeth and a few other minor differences compared to the European Iguanodon species. So Gregory Paul renamed it Dakotadon in 2008, and that genus name means Dakota tooth. It was found in South Dakota. When Gregory Paul named Dakotadon in 2008, he mentioned that Iguanodon was a, quote, taxonomic grab bag, which is another way of saying wastebasket taxon. I think I like that better. Grab bag.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said that the species had lived most of the early Cretaceous and they were in most of the northern hemisphere, which just seems like too much.
Yes. But genera sometimes are really broad. It just depends.
Mm-hmm.
Species shouldn't be so broad, but genera occasionally.
It doesn't help that Iguanodon was first named based on teeth, also.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Going back to the teeth thing. More specimens of Iguanodon have been found, which does help. And since then, there's been a lot of splitting.
There have even different specimens of iguanodontians that were on the same tiny little island off of Great Britain.
Mm-hmm.
If there's multiple genera there, this one that's way over on Lakota lands in the U.S. clearly seems like it should be a different genus.
Yes. So Gregory Paul found the skull of Dakotadon to be very different from Iguanodon, and he described the skull as having classic Iguanodont proportions, meaning it's long, it's low, it's narrow, there's the long beak and jaws, and it has large nostrils. But the skull had enough differences to be its own genus. There's a lot of details in the jaw, and it also has a relatively large hole in the front of the eye sockets. He also considered Dakotadon to be basal to Iguanodon, so it doesn't have as many new features or derived features. In 2014, Boyd and Pagnac, along with the grandchildren of Louis Rossow, went back to where the Dakotadon fossils were first found, and they were able to locate the original site where the fossils were found, as well as more bones.
Awesome.
Yeah, that can tell you a lot more about the dinosaur.
That'd be so cool going to where your grandparent found dinosaur fossils and getting to find more of that same animal.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how cool that would be.
So in 2015, those fossils got redescribed as well as the new bones, and the holotype now includes a partial skull, lower jaws, one backbone, and two tailbones. In the 2015 paper, they found that some of the bones had been misidentified, and there were some deformations in the skull that made the first descriptions inaccurate. But they did find two features in the skull that made it unique, including a triangular projection near the top of the head that goes into the underside of the prefrontal. That's another bone near the top of the head. The details make a difference with dinosaur species.
They do. Because if you're the exact same species, why would your skull have different bones in it?
Now, some other dinosaurs that lived around the same time and place as Dakotadon include the ankylosaur, the armored dinosaur, Hoplitosaurus, the Iguanodont Osmascosaurus, and an indeterminate sauropod. Managed to get a sauropod mention.
Near the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Snuck it in.
And some other animals that lived around the same time and place include small mammals, fish, and turtles.
Although, now that we're mentioning it, the lost dinosaur from the Bahari Oasis, Egyptosaurus, is also a titanosaur. So there was a sauropod mentioned a little bit earlier, too. I just didn't mention that it was a sauropod. So Egyptosaurus could be anything. Maybe I shouldn't be so harsh on calling something a species on different sides of the world, because even though the odds of it being the same exact species that could mate isn't really the criteria that we use with paleontology. You have to actually find something different in the bones. So if you can't find anything different, you don't really have any choice but to assign it to the same species.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes a while to find those details.
You work with what you've got.
Yep. And sometimes the details don't really fossilize. And there's probably a lot of things that are lumped together right now as the same species that wouldn't have been in life, but we just don't see the differences in the bones.